It's that time of year for another Steam sale, and with the autumn season kicking in and the pumpkin spice flowing like the waters of Lake Minnetonka, it's time to look at some spooky games. In this video today, we're going to look at my top 10 horror games under $10 on Steam's autumn sale. Almost every game on this list will be some sort of intense or psychological horror game with gothic or Lovecraftian themes. Some you can play at night, most you can't, and this is maybe because I'm terrified of anything horror related and I watch the Conjuring movies on mute. Not even kidding. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge in my videos. So with that being said, you can find the entire list of games I'll be covering using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. I know some people like to watch these videos quote unquote without spoilers, so I won't rattle off all the names. Just take a look to see if you're interested in any of those games, then jump ahead to the relevant section of the video. To also avoid spoilers, I will be showing the trailer from the game and loosely talking about it without going into any real details. This is different than my usual coverage of Steam summer sales or winter sales because the twists and suspense of horror games is not one I'd want to ruin. But that's too long didn't watch this entire video. So if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. If you are heading out and you found the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Each one of those helps me out in a huge way. Lastly, don't forget to check me out on Twitch, linked below, where I'll be streaming the new Vampire Masquerade 2, Battlefield 6, and a number of other games. Well, let's get started on my top 10 horror games under $10 on Steam's autumn sale. First up on our list is the game Prey. So what if you were to play the game Dead Space, and rather than the monsters being the ones in Dead Space, what if there was something more akin to Stranger Things? That is the general premise of what you'll be dealing with in Prey. And of the things on this list, this is far more of an action game with a lot more of a shooter mechanic built into this. This is from the same studio, Arcane Studios, that brought us Dishonored and the like. So you can have a lot of fun with a lot of different mechanics here. There's a lot of interesting things, but there is also a lot of horror elements in this. It's a lot of run and gun. It's a lot of fun. But if you've played Fear in the past, you'll feel a little bit more at home here, where Fear has a balance between horror elements and action elements. And at a mere $5.99, you cannot go wrong with Prey. If you are into more of an action-oriented horror game where you're not really constantly running from something and feeling helpless, this is definitely going to be the game for you. And I've kind of tried to cater this list to be not necessarily growing in fear, but more of an action in the front-loaded portion of this video and more of like a back-loaded, I'm now just being killed by things, this is genuine terror type of approach. But that is our first game, Prey. Let's jump into our next one. Moving into a little bit more of a scary theme, we now have Alan Wake. Now, there is a second game that came out pretty recently. That game was unfortunately full price, so I can't recommend it. If you do have PlayStation Plus, you can get Alan Wake 2 for free right now. So that's only in October that you can do that. But for Alan Wake, we have a game that came out in 2012 that really flew under the radar. And it is gorgeous. It takes place in this town called Bright Falls. You follow this character, Alan Wake, who is an author, and it had a lot of I don't know if I want to say collaboration, but a lot of Stephen King was thrown into this, like directly. Stephen King helped do portions of this because this is developed by Remedy Entertainment, the same people who made Max Payne, Quantum Break, a number of other games, of course. But with Alan Wake, you will find that you're going to discover these pages throughout the world, and they're parts of the book that he has yet to write, that he has been working on when he came to Bright Falls. And the pages might say something like, as I rounded the corner, a guy with a chain axe chased me, and you're going to get that page right before you round a corner. So you don't know, though, is that the corner that he's talking about in that page? Is it further down the road? Did it already happen? So Alan Wake is awesome because you do have control. And I think when you have control of your character, some sort of agency where you can shoot things, it does kind of help curb the fear back a little bit. But there's tons of jump scares. It's very atmospheric. It's very fun. And there's a lot of really good mystery. It's beautifully written game. So if you're looking for a more of a thriller style of horror that does still have that action and has a really good narrative, Alan Wake is definitely going to be for you. And I think it's going to scare the crap out of you. Sticking with our gothic theme of sorts, we're jumping into Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Now, the second one is coming out at the end of this month. I think it's like October 21st. And the first one here is definitely worth getting into. The game is set in the world of Vampire the Masquerade, which has werewolves, it has vampires, it has all sorts of things. But in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, you will be able to take advantage of all the different types of Vampire the Masquerade clans. Now, the second one's not going to have, I don't think it has a Malkavian in it, but there's a lot of different clans you can play. And through each one of them, the game will be played in a lot of different ways. This game isn't a traditional, oh, everything's spooky, scary. The atmosphere of the game is very dark and gothic, and there is one of the first missions, you go to a haunted house, and I swear to God, it scares the shit out of me to this day. And if you even play as the Malkavians, it's a really good one too, because you see things that aren't there, you interact with stuff that's not really a thing. There's a lot of really fun, different horror and gothic elements of this world, because it is very much a part of like that kind of darker, seedier portion of the early 2000s of development. This game came out in 2004 by Troika Games and is a since defunct developer from what I remember. But this is definitely one that you want to jump into. It is a bit more of a cult classic nowadays, and it is extremely fun. For a mere $10. You can have a great time. And if you're into RPGs that have a really good story, this one is going to definitely drive you all the way through it. And it's not even that long of a game. It can be, because there's lots of side quests and things that you can do, but it's more of a narrative heavy RPG and less of like a Skyrim RPG where you run around doing lots of action. You're going to be talking through most of the things and deciding how you want to push through them based off of your clan choices. This next entry is not going to be a singular game. Instead, it's going to be an entire series of games. The Amnesia, how would I say it like that? The Amnesia series is almost entirely on sale. Amnesia Dark Descent, the very first one, Amnesia Memories, Rebirth, The Bunker, all of those games are under $10 on Steam right now. Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs is $4 as well. So it's like you really can't go wrong with choosing any one of these. I will say though, that Amnesia the Dark Descent, the OG one, the one that most people played, is the one that almost everyone recommends you to play. And another game on this list is developed by the same company. The Bunker is the most recent one, and Rebirth came out as well. I've heard The Bunker has some of the scariest moments that people have ever played in video games. I have not played The Bunker. I've not played Rebirth. I've only ever played Dark Descent with my friends over Skype back when it came out in 2010. So that's how old the game is, but its horror holds up 15 years later. So if you're looking for a change of pace, because now we're not necessarily into action, but there is still some control. We have guns, we can shoot things, we have scarce amounts of ammo, but by and large, you're going to be chased by all sorts of crazy things. And you're going to deal with stuff that is very puzzle oriented, because Amnesia has lots of puzzles that are pulled into the game. So what if I were to play the game Myst while also being chased by some superficial, what's it called? A supernatural cryptid. That's kind of the theme of Amnesia, if I were to give you a kind of a one sentence hit. But Amnesia is one of the classic horror series that has really stood the test of time and continues to release great iterations. And with each one of them being under $10, you can't go wrong with any of them. For those of us that are fans of H.P. Lovecraft like myself, you're really going to enjoy the Sinking City Remastered. You can play the original one if you want, but I like the remastered one. It helps kind of play on a modern machine as well as an updated texture profile. And at $10, it's honestly quite literally a steal. Now, Sinking City 2 is coming out, so be on the lookout for that. But Frogwares created a game here around the same time that the official Call of Cthulhu game came out. And these two kind of ran pretty close to each other, maybe not that close, but close enough. And it's using Unreal Engine 5. So they're just kind of that big, I guess, disclaimer up front, because sometimes that runs funky on some machines, in which case maybe you'd want to just get the normal Sinking City. But Sinking City is a game filled with a lot of mystery. And that's typical in the H.P. Lovecraft kind of way, right? But it's very atmospheric. And you play a character that is a private investigator, I'll just say. And you're in this city that is going through some stuff. I just don't really want to reveal too much, because it's kind of a little bit of the mystery of the game. And you do have, again, agency. You are a third person shooter. It is very narrative heavy. You're going to have a Tommy gun. You're going to have a bunch of different ways to shoot things. But you're going to find that maybe isn't always the case when it comes to Lovecraftian stuff. Because remember, insanity is such a huge mechanic for a lot of these games, but you'll also be sleuthing through journals, reading newspaper clippings, all sorts of the stuff that you would do in an H.P. Lovecraft game that leads to a lot of the investigative journalist side of stuff, or the actual like investigative journalism. That's what I'm trying to say, but the actual investigative portion of this game and trying to figure out what is going wrong in Oakmont. As that's your primary location of where you'll be taking place. But if you love H.P. Lovecraft and you want an actual good H.P. Lovecraft game, this Sinking City is one I cannot recommend enough. Have you ever played the game Outlast? And have you ever wished that you had a damn gun? Well, Evil Within is going to play very similar to that. Developed by Shinji Mikami, the individual who created Resident Evil. You will get a game that has a lot of the samplings of a lot of games that we know from the horror genre and love. Evil Within has a lot of amazing things built into the narrative, and it is a really atmospheric game, and you'll find yourself running from horrible things into these safe rooms. And these safe rooms, though, you can hear them, I think it's Fleur-de-Lis that plays. You can hear them off in the distance. So you sprint them as fast as you can, and once you get in them, you can save the game, and it's a safe haven. But it has this really interesting effect. You hear the safe room music and you think, okay, cool, it's just down that hallway, I'll be safe. And as you run, that's what gets you. It's a trap. And they knew you were coming for you and they kill you. So that's kind of what you're going through with Evil Within. There's a lot of sneaking, there's a lot of sleuthing, but there's a lot of action, there's a lot of shooting, there's a lot of investigation because you are also a detective during this whole entire thing. And there's supernatural, there's all sorts of crazy themes that are wrapped into the Evil Within. And the Evil Within's first game is $4.99 and its second game is $7.99. So you can play the entire series here. I think there's a bundle of them at $6.24 on Steam. You can get all the DLCs for like $2 as well if you want any of those. So the Evil Within is a lot of fun, and I think it was one of those games that it came out to great acclaim in 2014. I remember actually being at E3 and playing it on the E3 floor back then. After like playing it for 2 minutes, I was like, nope, not doing this. I don't care how many people I'm surrounded by, but it is a really fun atmospheric game that brings a lot of different themes from the horror genre into one game that I think you'll really enjoy if you're looking for more of a Resident Evil style of game and you don't want to play through another Resident Evil. Let's take a break now from our single player, over the top, very intense horror games before we dive into some of the more intense ones at the end of this video and talk about the co-op horror genre. Something that's really become more and more popular in the last 5 or 6 years. And we have games like Phasmophobia. That's one of the more famous ones that came out in 2020. We all sunk our teeth into it. We've got Repo, which has just come out in the last year or two, also has a lot of great acclaim. But two that I really want to bring up that not necessarily are new, but I think ones that maybe have a little less press on them unless you are in the horror genre a lot. Demonologist came out in 2023, and it takes a lot of the tropes and a lot of the gameplay style of Phasmophobia, but adds in a lot of really fun jump scares that are instanced. What I mean by that is, if you have a four-player co-op and 4 players are in the mission, Phasmophobia, everyone will experience the same things usually at the same time. But in Demonologist, maybe only I am the one that saw like a ghost pop up in a mirror and we were in the same room. So it feels like a lot of the terror is hard to predict. Whereas Phasmophobia, oh, the haunt started, I'm going to run away. So Demonologist I definitely recommend and is on sale as well for $6.99. And I definitely recommend Devour. Also follows a lot of the same tropes as Phasmophobia and Demonologist, also on sale, down from $10 to $5. It's an amazing game to jump into with friends. And there's plenty of other games in the co-op horror genre. So I definitely recommend checking them out. But these two, these two, Demonologist and Devour, I definitely think you're going to have a lot of fun if you're looking to play some horror games with friends. Because I can't stomach horror games on my own. I'm not good. I'm terrible at them. But being able to share that terror with friends, and maybe the thing that scared you is just them coming through the door that you were about to walk through, is half the fun of these. They greatly outweighs the cost of any of these games with how many hours I can spend with friends getting my balls scared off. So now we're jumping into something a little bit more turbulent. And SOMA is where we're going to start. We talked about Amnesia, The Dark Descent, and the creators of Amnesia. Well, now those creators made a game called SOMA. And I don't want to talk much about this game. I'm going to be honest with you too. I've barely even played it. It was that terrifying. But people have told me, they've said, hey, this is probably one of the best psychological horror games I've ever played. And it really messed me up afterward because of the themes that it touches on. A lot of stuff on AI and so on and so forth. But it is a sci-fi horror game that is set below the waves of the Atlantic Ocean, as denoted on Steam here. And there's a lot of really crazy themes that you're going to take not advantage of. You're not going to take advantage of anything. You're going to be running from everything, because this is not a action horror game. It is psychological horror. You're going to be running from things. You're going to be hiding from things. And that's kind of fill the rest of this list. Stuff that is more relegated to not necessarily direct confrontation, but more evading and surviving. And SOMA is one that I think you will really enjoy if you want that same feel of the Amnesia folk, but something different, quote unquote, is what I'll say. Now, a game that I recently just picked up and have been playing on the channel doing live streams of is Alien Isolation. If you are a fan of the Alien series, someone said it in stream so well today. Alien Isolation has better alien anything than majority of the Alien movies. And it is great. You're going to play as Ripley's daughter aboard a space station that has information on the ship that Ripley was on. And it's pretty goddamn terrifying. The artificial intelligence, the AI for the alien, the xenomorph that is hunting you throughout this game is very well done. And it is really, it's refreshing, because it's not just simply, okay, I can trick this thing by doing this and this. It can learn what you typically would do. It can learn where you're typically hiding. Do you hide in these storage cabinets a lot? Well, that's the first place it starts to look now after having killed you, because dying and then loading back doesn't mean that the alien restarts its AI profile. It constantly learns where it was killing you, where you're hiding often, that it's finding you and stuff like that. So this game is great. I've been having an awesome amount of time. There is a lot of really good break in the horror too. It's well paced. So the times when it's just overwhelming with the amount of xenomorph is broken up by points, okay, where you're going to talk to a survivor here or there. You're maybe going to do a little bit of crafting, because you can craft like flares and all sorts of items that will help you distract the xenomorph or help you deal with the synths and what have you, or synthetics. So there's a lot of layers to Alien Isolation. And I think one of the best things about it is its art direction. It borrows very heavily from the tropes of 80s horror. And it tries to take that 80s utilitarian, almost like overblown industrialism of the sci-fi of that era, and blends it very well into the video game format by giving us what would a space station of that ilk look like. You will spend a lot of time in this game looking at your motion detector as you try to evade the xenomorph, and I think you're really going to enjoy it, because all the little mini games on how to get through doors and whatnot are so engaging, but at the same time you're like, oh, this is really cool. It's way different of a pace to do those things when now you have a xenomorph audibly thumping its way down the corridor towards you, and you have to get through by figuring out this little mini game, and you just start panicking until it rips your face off. So you're really going to enjoy this if you like the Alien series, but you're furthermore going to enjoy this if you want a survival horror game that has a lot of very fun little mini games into it. I will say, if you play this on console, the xenomorph will listen to your microphone. So if you are playing on console with a mic and you squeal, it can hear you. On PC, it cannot. So just know those two things. Last but not least is the game Darkwood. So, and this is not like my number one on the list. In fact, it's just really fucking good. If you liked Project Zomboid, you're really going to love Darkwood. It has a very similar mechanic. Rather than being isometric with that kind of front-facing view, it's bird's eye, so top down entirely. But it's a very interesting survival horror game that has a lot of really crazy themes and mechanics. It has these themes that are Lovecraftian. It has these themes that are very Giger, who's, you know, the artist that did all of the Alien movies. It has a lot of crazy cryptid stuff. There's so many weird things in Darkwood, but the way that it's done too You have some natural pacing to it. You can do some crafting because it is a survival game. So you can take advantage of a lot of those things. But I think it has just enough stuff to really bite you initially as soon as you jump in and go, oh, I want to check how that works. I want to see how that works. And once you kind of get like, make yourself like a little safe house and you find yourself maybe boxed in by something that you didn't expect would break through a wall, the game is very interesting. It's fun. It's very gritty. And it has like it has this weird cozy feel to it where you're in quite literally like a forlorn world, man. Like this isn't looking fun for anyone. But you build kind of this little hideout, this little hovel, and it creates this sense of sanctuary that the game really plays with very well. For $3.74 too, I think you're going to have a ton of fun with Darkwood if you're looking for a horror game that blends survival in with a lot of really crazy different horror themes. And you'll have a lot of fun kind of dealing with the little puzzles and the overall narrative of this game. Honorable mention for this video is Sons of the Forest. Now I'm putting it as honorable mention because I've yet to play the game, but I've heard plenty of stuff about how it's a really good survival horror, different than Darkwood, right? This is more like, what if I was playing Rust and it was all a horror game at the same time? Sons of the Forest, from what I understand, is a sequel to the game The Forest. And I'd not played either one, but I wanted to throw it onto this list. It came out just last year. It is a visually beautiful game, but I know that it gets out of control at night, like absolutely terrifying. And it's one of those games that when it comes to the survival elements, all fun and games during the day, but at night kind of gets unhinged in a different way than Minecraft does, right? And at $9.89, it's definitely worth jumping into to see if you like try your hands at Sons of the Forest, because it has a lot of really interesting things like being able to find stuff all in the wild and discover like these bunkers more or less. It's really, really interesting thematically, or at least theme wise, which is what thematically means. I don't know why I said that same word over and over, but the crafting mechanics of it too are really, really engrossing. You can get lost in the crafting, making a log cabin with a bunch of walls, because that's just what you're going to do in a crafting game. But Sons of the Forest is our honorable mention, and I think you'll really enjoy it if you are looking for a more of a conventional survival game, you know, like one that we play nowadays. And you can still have some fun during the day, is all I'll say. But that is our honorable mention with Sons of the Forest. And at that, it brings our video here to a close. So we've covered a lot of different games, a lot of, well, like the whole gamut of the horror genre, some survival, some outright just typical narrative heavy games, ones that you're constantly running away from things, kind of like Outlast, all sorts of different stuff. And there's plenty of other games to be had. Like there's a game, Dredge. I did not bring up Dredge in this video because it's over $10. But if you want a different horror game that jumps into a bunch of different angles, but starts very slow and cozy because you're a fisherman, Dredge is $12. I definitely recommend it. There's a lot of really good horror games right now that are on sale that are not under $10. So if you want to recommend any of those, please, by all means, let it be known in the comment section below. I am terrible at horror games. I'm really not good at them. So please share as much information as you can. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.